From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, this is Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Riley Smith. In today's show, Mark visits with Tom Verseman of Bayer. I learn about a new biomanufacturing device from BioMADE, and special correspondent Russ Parker wraps up his conversation with Tony Jesina of Farm Credit Services of America. Now here are your hosts, Mark Magnuson and Dustin Huffman.
Thanks for joining us for another edition of Iowa Ag Matters. And Dustin, the very first thing I'm thinking about here this morning as we take a look at the ag marketplace and the green that is on the screen in the grains, what we've seen with the soybean price here in just recent days. We've seen that price have a lot of positive price movement to the upside. And when we've been talking with our analyst about it here recently, there's been, of course, two main factors to that. One is the conflict in Iran and the oil price, how that works in relationship with the products that we use to make biofuels. But then also the other factor, of course, is this trickle of information that we've heard about the final RVO rules. We still haven't gotten that announcement yet, but the fact that it sounds like it's coming out here soon, that target date that the EPA had given us originally was Q1 of 2026, but we've heard more and more clues about those RVOs and also some of the news about the small refineries and those medium-sized refineries and some of the information related to that.
Yeah, there's been a lot of information. I mean, we talked about it yesterday a little bit with the folks at agmarket.net, and you're talking about could be as much as 70% reallocation. Now, that's not exactly perfect. I know they want 100% reallocation for biofuels in the waivers, but 70% is definitely better than 0%. So we're going to have to wait and see how that plays out. Now, of course, that could help maybe lead to a groundwork that could also benefit E15. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out, again, because this is a biodiesel situation. We're talking about the soy oil, but, obviously, talking about it, working out some kind of an agreement and getting this done is a top priority, but also way behind for the EPA. And so getting that done so we can get those blending requirements done is going to be a big deal. And, you mentioned the fact that those soybean prices have been skyrocketing. Corn has been going along for the ride quite a few of those days as well. But the one thing you got to remember, and this is something we've been seeing, and you'll hear about it later on with the basis report, is the fact that the elevators are compensating for this surge in prices. And it's been very volatile on the cash bids as well. And so you might be seeing some great prices, but you better call and get them locked in as quick as you can, especially before the elevator decides to adjust their basis, especially if there's a big increase. And seeing increasing amounts of elevators going almost to 85 to 90 cents below board. And so when you're talking about a raise of, maybe a buck, you're looking at 80 to 90 cents lost in the basis right there. That becomes a big problem and almost a wash. And so you've got to play it safe. You got to have strategies in place, and you've got to talk to your marketing advisors about getting that done. So lots of things to be thinking about here, especially again in this volatile time with what's going on here. And not only is the market volatile, the weather's volatile. I mean, we're talking a nice day again today with sunshine, and you were talking to me before we went on the air, Mark, about a snowstorm possibly coming on Sunday.
Yeah, it sounds like here in Des Moines anyway, we could get as much as 3 inches of snow with some high winds that would immediately change this weather pattern that we've had. Although we did have the snow yesterday morning, I mentioned that it kind of felt like, I don't know if any of our listeners have visited the state of Colorado or Denver at a time when it snowed, but oftentimes that's the case in Denver. It felt like that kind of weather where it snows in the morning, sun comes out and melts it in the afternoon.
All right, well, let's kick things off here. We're going to go ahead and get into the markets and talk about the grains. Mark Magnuson had a chance to visit with Joe Camp of Comstock Investments here this morning.
Joined today by Joe Camp of Comstock for the opening market discussion. Joe, it's been an interesting week in the trade. What's it look like for the grains here on Thursday?
A volatile week, that's for sure. You've got higher grains following through from a solid showing on Wednesday. You have the crude oil storyline still very much at play here. I'm looking at WTI crude futures up more than $7 a barrel, back near $95 a barrel. And these prospects of an ongoing war in the Middle East continuing to charge that bullishness. You have the related but also separate news for biofuels policy here at home that is helping the soybean oil in particular. And if that's not, the main storyline so far of 2026, I don't know what is. for the ags, that is. That's bean oil futures making new highs. They're at their highest levels since the middle part of 2023. They get that benefit from the higher crude oil and the spillover effect, and then the additional support from biofuel policy news. Yesterday, it was more confirmation that the government is close to reporting elevated renewable volume targets for 2026 and 2027, and also some updated news about the reallocation of the previous small refinery exemption waivers, and that they would be reallocated at an even higher than previously expected rate. Now, this does possibly give us some room to be let down when we get the final news, and this is coming any day now. It could be as soon as Friday the 13th or early next week that the White House tells us that these final rulings are being put in place, and that would be a piece of news that everybody's, of course, waiting for on the biofuel front.
What kind of conversations are you having right now with soybean farmers as they're seeing these elevated prices for soybeans here in recent weeks?
It's about taking advantage of it, but certainly also knowing the risk of continued upside. And that means strategizing about how to reward the rally if that's the inclination here. And that can be a mix of selling old crop stocks that are left and or making a start on hedging new crop. But how do you make those contracts? Do you sell at the elevator? Do you have margin exposure in your brokerage account? What kind of contracting options are out there so that we can do something about what has now been such a considerable rally over the last several weeks? We're looking at some semblance of profitability in areas like soybeans after the run up. Of course, we're talking about $12 plus nearby soybeans now for the first time in a couple of years. And so that's definitely something that's being taken notice by our farmer customers out there.
Your local radio station brings you the local news you depend on. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network complements that with ag news, weather, and market updates tailored for Iowa's farmers. Together, we deliver the best of both worlds, local connection and industry expertise. It's all to keep you connected with the heartbeat of the heartland. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, connecting rural Iowa with the news that matters to you.
Back on Iowa Ag Matters, and Mark Magnuson's going to be talking right now with the folks at Bayer, talking about Field View and how it works with their Precion short corn to help you out in the 26 growing season if you decide to take that short corn route in your acres. Mark?
Mark Magnuson for the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and I'm joined today by Tom Verseman. We are at Commodity Classic 2026 in San Antonio, Texas, at the Bayer exhibit. Tom, could you tell me, please, today about Field View? I know the name has been tweaked a little bit.
It has, Mark, and thanks for having me. So we've actually gotten away from saying climate Field View. Moving forward, we're going to be focusing on Field View. And you'll see more, too, around our branding, just using the F. And there's been a lot of brand equity in that with the icon for the app, et cetera. So really excited to focus on Field View and then partnering with Precion, too, which I know you talked to Lindsay earlier.
And then the partnership with Precion, what is that? In terms of Field View, why is it important that those two work together in tandem?
That's right. So when you think about that system farming approach and coming back down to even planting prescriptions, that's a big part of that collaboration. And what's really exciting is we actually just announced a partnership with John Deere where we can sync prescriptions from Field View to a John Deere work plan through our API. So really excited to have that partnership. We're going to be launching that later this year. We do have some Precion folks using it already today.
And then the pricing structure for Field View, I know in the past it was 3 different tiers. I believe I have that correct. Could you tell me where you're at now? Has that changed as well?
That's a good question. So we have our free tier basic, which everyone has to have a basic account to create an account. But then traditionally we had Prime, Plus, and Premium. We're actually retiring Premium and Prime. We're going to focus on that Plus tier, and the price is the same.
So does that mean then all 3 tiers combined together essentially, and you have everything available that would have been on any of those different tiers?
No, that's a great question. So all the premium functionality will be going into Plus. We will be retiring our premium support, but we're still going to offer that mainline support for all our Plus customers.
And then, Tom, as I was walking up here today, you said you were excited to tell me as well about a new partnership with John Deere as it relates to Field View. Could you tell us about that, please?
Totally. So back to Precion a little bit even too, right? So that partnership right now is connecting an API with John Deere so that we can send agronomic prescriptions to Ops Center through a work plan. And then that can be executed in cab, all wirelessly with your Gen 4 or Gen 5 monitor through John Deere. So really excited about that relationship and looking forward to see where it goes.
And I've heard that so many times from John Deere operators and users, the fact that, something gets sent to their to their John Deere Operations Center. Like you said, the prescription's just already there. It just makes it so easy, doesn't it, for the operator to have everything right at their fingertips without even really having to jump through all of those hoops ahead of time.
Yep, 100%. Simplicity, right? Not having to take a thumb drive, take it out of the computer, take it to the cab. Let's save that time. If something happens, you need to make a change, you can get things instantly sent over. Really looking forward to this, and it's going to be an exciting time ahead.
And in a time of tight margins for farmers, time very much can be money. And so it's a chance to optimize, to save some time. You might think it's a little thing, but when you add those together, it can save you a lot of money in the end.
Totally. I think ROI is top of mind for everyone right now, and we want to help any way we can.
Tom Verseman with Bayer, my guest here today, telling us all about Field View. Tom, is there anything else you'd like to let our Iowa listeners or Iowa farmers know about when it comes to Field View, or just anything else you're excited about at Bayer?
Just excited to be here at Commodity Classic this year, and I'm really looking forward to planting coming up. Hard to believe it's already late February right now. Everyone stay safe and have a wonderful spring.
It always does feel like the unofficial kickoff to the growing season here at Commodity Classic, but when we're in the 90-degree temperatures, it really feels like it this year. Tom, thanks so much for the time. Appreciate it, and have a great rest of the show.
You too, Mark. Thank you.
In rural Iowa, you need reliable information. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network brings you ag-specific content like market trends, weather outlooks, and policy updates that matter to your operation, while your local station brings you community news and consistent updates on what is happening in your area. It's a partnership built for the challenges of rural life. Your farm, your local station, and your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters. Find us online at iowaagnet.com. Time to run down the basis numbers here on Iowa Ag Matters on this Thursday. I'm Dustin Huffman. Not seeing a whole lot of change in the numbers, just a few elevators shuffling some prices around, no trend line really established. Let's take a look at where they're bidding. At ADM Burlington, they're 20 cents under on corn at $4.46. Soybeans are 40 cents under at $11.88. Cargill and Eddyville, 24 cents under on corn, cash bid $4.42. New Co-op Algona, 46 cents under on corn, $4.20. Soybeans, 82 cents under, cash bid $11.46. Ag State Sheldon, 34 cents under on corn, $4.32. Soybeans, 90 cents under at $11.38. At Ag State Alta, they're 47 cents under on corn, $4.19. Soybeans, 85 cents under, cash bid $11.43. Cargill Cedar Rapids, 19 cents under on corn, $4.47 for the cash price. Soybeans, 50 cents under, $11.78. Five Star Co-op Nashua, 32 cents under on corn, $4.34. Soybeans, 74 cents under at $11.54. Lincoln Way Energy Nevada, 28 cents under on corn, $4.38 for the cash bid. ADM Des Moines, 50 cents under on soybeans, the cash price there, $11.78. New Co-op Red Oak, 38 cents under on corn, $4.28. Soybeans, 82 cents under at $11.46. Mid-Iowa Cooperative Green Mountain, 51 cents under on corn, $4.15 for the cash bid. Soybeans, 85 cents under at $11.43. New Co-op Sheraton, 40 cents under on corn, $4.26. Soybeans, 82 cents under, cash bid $11.46. Walk-On Feed Ranch, they're 45 cents under on corn, $4.21. Soybeans, 73 cents under, $11.55. New Co-op Glidden, 44 cents under on corn, cash bid $4.22. Soybeans, 82 cents under at $11.46. Innovative Ag Farley, 48 cents under on corn, $4.18 for the cash price. Soybeans, 78 cents under, cash bid $11.50. In Cargill Muscatine, the river is closed for the season. Deliveries will resume the week of March 23rd. Cash corn and soybean bids are subject to change without notice. Always check with your local elevator when making sales to obtain the most recent price. That's been a check of your basis bids here on Iowa Ag Matters. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this message.
Stay informed with the closing market report from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, your essential summary of the day's market activities and their impact on the agricultural economy. Join us for timely updates and expert commentary on commodity prices and market trends with trusted ag market analysts from around the Midwest. Tune in every Monday through Friday on your local Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliate for for your daily market recap and insights to stay ahead in the ag economy.
You're listening to Iowa Ag Matters, and it is time now for an interesting discussion with Riley Smith and a team of researchers at Iowa State University who developed a biomanufacturing tool to help producers make their own biologicals on a small scale for their own operation. Here's Riley with more.
Riley Smith, Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and learning today from Iowa State University about a novel, compact, all-in-one biomanufacturing device that can make it much easier and far more affordable for companies to produce important biological products at small scale. Funded by BioMADE, it's the Continuous Taylor Vortex Fermentator Extractor Separator. And I am with two of the professors from Iowa State who worked on this. First off, Dr. Dennis Vigil, if you could talk a little bit about the program and just what led up to that and kind of its primary function.
Yeah, Riley, I think just some general background here. There's really been a revolution in biotechnology. I think most people are aware of that, things like genetic engineering. And to really fully realize the potential of that technology and to see the benefits in a place like Iowa, which is well positioned because of access to renewable feedstocks. What has really been missing from all of that has been what we would call the process engineering technology to go to large scales of manufacturing. And that's what this project is really all about. With Professor Shao, she has expertise in the genetic engineering, the synthetic biology part. And I had a background in what we'd say chemical reaction engineering. And we worked together to create a better environment for carrying out fermentation to produce desired high-value products. So that's kind of the general background on this. And the BioMADE Institute, which is funded by the Department of Defense, saw this as a critical national need. And this was also supported by an organization called Schmidt Sciences. So we had the opportunity to carry out this project, and it's been really exciting.
So then I'll kind of follow up on that. You mentioned your expertise on the side of it, kind of on the chemical engineering side. Obviously, the function here is we're kind of streamlining, bringing these processes together. Normally, these are very complicated and maybe lengthy processes that require dedicated facilities, right?
Yes, I mean, usually there are multiple capital costs here involved with each step. So first you have to prepare the feedstock material that may require equipment. Then you carry out the actual fermentation in a bioreactor. There's a lot of cost associated with that as well. And then even after you carry out the fermentation, the next step is to separate the fermentation broth from any to separate the high-value products from the fermentation broth. And in order to do that, often you have to do what's called liquid extraction. So downstream, even after you carry out the fermentation, there can be a lot of costs associated with equipment. And so this device that we worked on, it tries to integrate several steps in one device.
All right, and I'm also joined by Professor Zhengyi Xiao of Iowa State University. And Professor Xiao, you being brought onto this project, working on that as well. I'll just kind of pose the same question to you from your expertise. It's very, complicated processes that could definitely use, having that streamlining would be quite a bit of a benefit, right?
Yes, because some of the value-added compounds are actually toxic to the production host. So in the project, we are trying to produce fatty alcohol. If you look at the chemical structure of this compound, it has a hydrophobic tail and a hydrophilic head. So this property make the products inserted into the cell membrane, which will inhibit the cell growth. So you can think about this as a contradictory goals. While being produced, this product we hope to have a very high titer, but in the end, it stops the production host from rapid growing. So we want to develop this process, have a streamlined process to do this in situ extraction. So in our setup, we have an organic layer composed of a dodecaine, constantly extract this fatty alcohol from the cell. So we can, the goal is to fulfill this separation while being produced, while this equipment can facilitate this separation process.
And then I'll follow up on that, Professor Shao. Not only does that make that, like you mentioned, safer, but just makes it more accessible to a wider range of users at that point, right?
So the current scale we are making is about 14 liter. So the height of the reactor is about 3 to 4 feet. Sorry about that. So it is more movable. Instead of set up a really large fermenter, and we are able to carry out to different places. And also because this process allow this continuous production, so we do not need to have a really bulky high volume at the beginning.
All right, and then Dr. Vigil, as we look forward from the kind of development of this device, kind of what's the next step of getting that accessible out there for users and, further developing this?
Yeah, so I think what we achieved in this project was really proof of concept that you could combine these multiple steps in one device. I think the next steps are to continue to scale the device up, and we did some of that work actually in this project. We need to go to larger volumes. The largest reactor we had was 14 liters, and that may not sound very large, but we were able to figure out how to go to much larger volumes without a lot of trial and error that is usually involved in traditional scale up. So I think the next steps are to better understand how to optimize the performance of this device, as well as to continue the scale up. And in that latter part, I think we'll need to be partnering with a company to move this more towards commercialization.
Your local radio station brings you the local news you depend on. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network complements that with ag news, weather, and market updates tailored for Iowa's farmers. Together, we deliver the best of both worlds, local connection and industry expertise. It's all to keep you connected with the heartbeat of the heartland. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, connecting rural Iowa with the news that matters to you.
This is the Midday Market Update on Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Mark Magnuson, joined today by Brian Doherty of Total Farm Marketing for our Midday Market discussion. Brian, a lot of green on the screen to start the day. Has that continued here at midday?
So far it has, and I'm going to say so far because right now something like December corn too higher at $4.91, a very good price, but at a high today closing in at $4.96 with a high of $4.95 3/4. So not quite as high as it got on Sunday night when things really exploded as crude oil really blew through the roof. But today, anywhere from 3 to 4 higher in corn right now. Beans continue to just really shine. They are backing off their highs, Mark, but on the old crop, about 18 higher in the May beans currently at 12.32. High today, 12.38 3/4, so about 6 cents off the high. November beans, 11.70, up 6 3/4. Wheat, 9 to 10 higher, so just really solid across the board buying. Probably a lot of it in the what we'd call the index funds or the managed money pushing the commodities. You see the stock market down about almost 500 points on the Dow, and the S&P down about 62. So we think money's been flowing out of the equities and flowing into commodities and row crops in particular.
What's happening on the livestock side of the trade today?
Some rebound here. June live cattle up $1.45 at $229.55. Nearby April up $1.25, $231.40. So strength there. The feeder market mixed right now. Remember, grains are higher, and we're kind of getting back to that relationship. When grains are higher, feeders generally are not. So Not much change in the feeder complex today. Milk market is finding some good support, but that too was kind of beat up yesterday. Up 33 in the April contract right now, so a nice recovery. But yesterday, not a real pleasant day when the market lost ground by the tune of 14 cents, but the day before, really kind of a tough day down the 75-cent limit. So milk is rebounding, but still kind of at the lower end of its trading range. And then lastly, in the hog market, anywhere from about 50 cents to $1.50 lower. And that's a quick wrap up on the livestock.
What's the best way for our listeners to get in touch for more marketing information?
I would ask them to give us a phone call, 1-800-334-9779, or email Brian@TotalFarmMarketing.com.
That was Brian Doherty with Total Farm Marketing. We will have a check of the numbers next.
Start your weekend with insight and inspiration on Weekend Ag Matters from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. Every week we bring you an in-depth look at the top ag stories with a recap of the week's biggest headlines. Join us for long-format interviews with industry leaders and policymakers, giving you insights you won't hear anywhere else. And don't miss our faith-based segment with Russ Parker, Food for Thought, offering a perspective that helps bring clarity and focus to our lives. Make Weekend Ag Matters part of your weekend routine. Tune in every weekend on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network.
May corn up 4.5 at 464 3/4. May soybeans up 17.5 at 1231.5. May soybean meal up $4 at $319.40. May soybean oil up 75 cents at $67.91. On the Merc, April live cattle up $1 at $231.15. March feeder cattle down 33 cents at $348.40. April lean hogs down 78 cents at $94.43. April pork cutout unchanged at $103.40. That was a check of the midday markets on Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Mark Magnuson.
Back into the markets we go here on Iowa Ag Matters. We're going to run down what's happening in those cattle and hog markets as they've had a kind of a split day, and the cattle and hogs even are trading a little bit lower. We'll see how that's playing out here as Joe Camp of Comstock talks once again with Mark Magnuson.
What's happening on the livestock side of the trade today?
We've got the cattle futures trying to make a stand and turning higher after a weaker start. So just like any other market, the cattle are as volatile as that, big swings and not staying in any one direction. That's been the case with some up and down this week. Initially this week, we had negativity about the plant strike in Colorado, what that means for reduced demand. We generally, though, have seen the beef market hold up, and that incentivizes packers to not back off quite maybe as much as they would have otherwise this week. And so we are back into this conversation about the difference between speculative decision making and how oftentimes, especially when the stock market's moving lower like it has been in doses lately, the worry about the economy and consumer demand spooks some of those speculators out of what are otherwise held as still large net longs in the cattle space. But then you get to a point of fundamental reasoning and a point of commercial interest where the board becomes too cheap relative to where the cash is at. And that is, I think, so far today, a reason for seeing some rebound action in the cattle.
And is the JBS strike a go-ahead right now? Is it planned? Is it in effect? What's the situation, Joe?
The latest news that I was aware of was that they did vote to go on strike, and it would be something that would happen as soon as 7 days, and that now coming up towards this weekend or Monday. But in preparation for that possible strike, the plant already shutting down hours and curtailing that demand. Definitely, as always, a back and forth when you talk about these labor relations and what's actually going to come out of it. But the involved uncertainty is not something that's been friendly for the market.
What's the best way for our listeners to get in touch for more marketing information?
I'm writing about that soybean oil storyline in the Comstock report this week. Access to that and all of our contact info is up at comstock.com.
Check it out. Lots of great information from the team at Comstock Investments. Joe Camp, thanks so much for the time. Always appreciate it, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Mark. You too.
Hi, my name is Ethan Smith, and I've been a certified crop advisor in Iowa for about 6 years. The Iowa CCA program is valuable to me because it helps keep me informed on new topics and research around the industry, including soils, insects, diseases, and much more. It's also a great way to network with others around the state and beyond. Iowa is known for its crops, and that's why we're here. To learn more about becoming a certified crop advisor, visit iowacca.org.
In rural Iowa, we know you're sold on your local radio station. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network partners with local Iowa stations to deliver the latest in agriculture news, including grain elevator prices, market reports, and ag policy news. Trusted local voices, trusted ag content. This message is brought to you by your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters.
You're listening to the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and it is time for Russ Parker to continue that discussion with Tony Jesina of Farm Credit Services of America. Here's Russ Parker with more.
And it's also a known. Once you call it, is that a fair word to use?
Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of discussion going around Farm Bill and things like that. But the crop insurance program is a known safety net. You can bank on it. Lenders rely on it. You can bank on it. You know, that coverage that you got is golden. And so, yeah, that is the known safety net that's available to all producers.
So now we've got a plan in place. We've got our insurance in place. What are some other strategies that this producer might be able to take advantage of as things start to unfold?
Yeah, Russ. Once you have a plan, use the plan, leverage the plan. And so one good example of that is, your crop insurance policy gives you guaranteed revenue. And so during the growing season, so once you got the crop planted and there's a window of opportunity that the market may give you, which most years there's a window of opportunity from the time you plant it until harvest that it may give you a chance to take a profit on some of those bushels. And so once you have this plan, that's one way to leverage it is if the market gives you an opportunity to sell above your cost of production, your risk management plan gives you the comfort to do that and take advantage of that. So take some dollars of profit off the table. So it does a couple things. One, it reduces the pressure on the remaining bushels that you got to get to cover your costs. So come harvest, post-harvest, it reduces that pressure. The other thing is when you can sell at a profit, you generally are going to be long-term viable. And so take advantage of that. I know there's always fear like, well, what happens if I don't produce the crop? Well, that's what your risk management plan is for. So your crop insurance policy will protect you. So you're going to have guaranteed bushels. As long as you stay within that window, you should be comfortable selling against that.
Well, great advice from a guy I respect. So I appreciate your time too, Tony. Anything else that maybe I can add? If I think I always like to make sure that if there's an action that can be taken, that we get them going. So if a producer wants to start to look into this, and I know there's a time coming up, but there's also time afterwards. Where can they go to start exploring some of these options, and who can they talk to and get some more information?
Yeah, Russ, we've got insurance officers spread across our whole territory. So you can go to our website, but call our local office and get in contact with a trusted professional. We have the tools to help you look at it. Also work with your financial officer. If it's one of ours, great. If it's not, but work with your lender to understand your cost of production. But then you got to understand risk management's a year-round thing anymore. So yeah, you're making key decisions now up to March 15th. But we've got producers that are already, after March 15th, they're already looking at what decisions can I make for the 2027 crop? How do I maximize what's coming up still for the 2026 crop? So work with a trusted professional and work with them year-round.
Well, good advice. My guest has been Tony Jesina with Farm Credit Services, and Tony is sure to appreciate your time.
Yeah, appreciate the opportunity. Thanks, Russ. Appreciate all you do as well.
So this is Russ Parker reporting for the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network.
Stay up to date with the latest in the ag industry with Agribusiness Matters from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. Each weekday, we bring you the latest advancements in farming, from new precision ag technology to cutting-edge sustainable farming practices. Agribusiness Matters is also your source for the most relevant ag news, policy discussions, and insights that are shaping the future of agriculture. Tune in to Agribusiness Matters on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters.
Hi, my name is Ethan Smith, and I've been a certified crop advisor in Iowa for about 6 years. The Iowa CCA program is valuable to me because it helps keep me informed on new topics and research around the industry, including soils, insects, diseases, and much more. It's also a great way to network with others around the state and beyond. Iowa is known for its crops, and that's why we're here. To learn more about becoming a certified crop advisor, visit iowacca.org.
In rural Iowa, we know you're sold on your local radio station. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network partners with local Iowa stations to deliver the latest in agriculture news, including grain elevator prices, market reports, and ag policy news. Trusted local voices, trusted ag content. This message is brought to you by your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters.
Well, that is going to put the wraps on another edition of Iowa Ag Matters here on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. Of course, you can find all our content and full replays of this show up at iowaagnet.com, this show under the podcast tab. You can also find our daily market summaries with agmarket.net on our YouTube channel. And don't forget to sign up for our free e-newsletter. You can find that Monday through Friday in your email inbox at around 5 p.m. Thanks to Mark, thanks to Riley, and of course, thanks to you for listening. Have yourself a great rest of your Thursday. We'll see you back here for Friday's edition of Iowa Ag Matters. You're listening to the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network.